have some more join us as the time goes on.
Yeah.
So hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for the Balancing Act Sandwich Generation Realities Part 3 of a multi-part series. So Tez, Connie, and I actually started this series to support the sandwich generation. So those who are stuck in the middle, really juggling raising families while also caring for aging loved ones. We actually started this with an in-person panel last year where we had several experts touch on different topics, but we quickly realized that each of these topics could really be its own deep dive, as there's really so much to learn about navigating this aging process. So part one of the series, we talked about legal matters and how to prepare your paperwork. Part two of the series, we talked about home care and exploring in-home care options. And tonight we'll be talking about the realities of assisted living and everything that goes along with potentially making that move. So before we start, we'll take a quick moment to introduce ourselves. I am Megan Scott. I'm the owner and operator of Right at Home of Essex County. We've been family owned and operated in West Orange for 22 years, and we provide in-home care to seniors and adults in all of Essex County. So that means that our certified home health aides really support our clients and their families with varying levels of personal care and companion care as they age in home, wherever home may be. So thank you again all for joining us. A recording of this will be available as well as the first two installments that we did. Always happy to share those. So next I will pass it over to Tez.
Thank you so much, Megan. Good evening, everyone. We're so happy that you were able to join us today. I love cooperating and collaborating with these ladies. We always make some magic happen. I see some familiar faces, but for those who don't know me, my name is Tez Roro. I'm a local real estate broker and a certified senior real estate specialist, also known as an SRES. My work focuses on helping older adults and their families navigate housing decisions with clarity, dignity, and a lot less overwhelm. I'm part of this care collective. We call ourselves the Care Collective because I truly believe that families are best supported when trusted professionals work together. Whether it's housing, care, or planning the next chapter, my role is to help connect the dots so that no one feels like they're making these decisions alone. So I'm really glad you're here with us to have this conversation together. I'm sure we'll learn a lot from Connie, whom I'll introduce now. I've gotten to know Connie over the years, and she's an amazing professional. So Connie Pizarro is the owner of Oasis Senior Advisors. After a successful career as a technology professional on Wall Street, Connie left corporate America to pursue her dream of entrepreneurship. Connie is the proud owner of three Oasis Senior Advisors franchises and Dementia Awareness Training LLC. She specializes in educating and informing seniors and their family members on the distinctions and options pertaining to assisted living communities, Alzheimer's care, retirement communities, skilled nursing homes, residential care homes, respite services, hospice, and dementia care. Don't worry, you're not going to be quizzed on any of this, but we're certainly going to learn a lot from her today. Um, Having received her certification as a certified senior advisor, Connie counsels senior citizens and provides resources for pertinent issues relating to health, finances, legal matters, and senior living options. She offers these services through her business, Oasis Senior Advisors, which provides a free service for families seeking help locating alternative living options for their loved ones, with an emphasis on assisted living and memory care communities. Additionally, she's a trustee at Raritan Valley chapter of the Links Incorporated, member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Inc., and director of finance at North Stelton AME Church. Connie graduated from Rutgers Business School's Entrepreneurship Pioneers Initiative and Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. Connie currently resides in Somerset, New Jersey with her husband of 40 years, Edward, amazing. They have two adult children, EC third and Crystal.
Oh,
Before I invite Connie to take the mic, I just want to let everyone know that as she goes through her information, if there's questions that come up for you, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will ask at appropriate times. We also plan to have a Q&A at the end of her presentation. So Connie, take it away.
okay. Thank you, Tess. Thank you so much. And thank you, Megan. So I'm so happy always to work with these two women. We've been working together, as Tess said, for quite some time now. And I'm glad that we decided to pool our talents and to create this series for you. So, as Tess mentioned, we have had two other presentations. And so this is the third installment. And what we're going to focus on this evening is going to be on when to consider that it's time, when is the right time to consider senior living. If you're comfortable, please feel free to put your questions, if you have them, in the chat. If you are not comfortable writing them in the chat, if you want to raise your hand virtually, you can, and we will recognize them. Sometimes you might forget the question, so if you need to ask it during, it is quite all right. Okay, so when is the right time to consider looking at senior living? So I'm sure you've heard the expression before, got milk? Well, got aging parents? Yeah. Well, if you have aging parents or loved ones, they may be living independently at home and they have been for some time. It can be hard to tell if it's time to
Okay.
start that conversation about senior living options. So, senior living communities exist to provide a stable environment for seniors who may need additional support while still allowing them to have dignity, to enjoy their life with the appropriate level of independence. A lot of people think of assisted livings as nursing homes, and they tend to think, well, if I go here, I'm going to lose my independence and I'm not going to be able to do anything, and someone's going to tell me everything and control my life. That's not the case. But when should we start thinking about this? I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can look for. One of the things is a sign that you might want to consider looking at assisted living is wandering. Okay. Exactly what is the definition of wandering? So, wandering is defined as traveling or moving aimlessly from place to place without a fixed plan. So roaming and rambling. Now, if I were to ask you to observe your loved one's behavior and to observe whether or not you think they were wandering, you may not be sure how to answer that question. And you really may not even recognize wandering behavior. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of things that you can look for. One, someone goes on a walk that they regularly take or a drive that they regularly take and they return late. So you might say, well, why would that be considered wandering? They got lost. They returned late because they couldn't find their way back. So forgetting how to get to a very familiar place, a place that they go to all the time, and now they cannot remember how to get there. Talking about fulfilling former obligations, such as going to work. So you might say, how is that wandering? Because the person is going to start looking and trying to fulfill that obligation of going to work, even though they're home. The other thing is they tell you that they want to go home, and guess what? They're already there. Okay. So those are some things that, really get classified as wandering when a person is seeking to find their home when they're already home. So when wandering gets to the point where they become confused or lost, then we have a safety issue. When we have a safety issue, it's time that you may want to have that conversation. Another thing that we want to look at and consider is overall safety. What I would ask you to do is to take an evaluation around your loved one's home and see the potential safety concerns. So, what are safety concerns? Stairs. Look at the stairs. Can they navigate getting up and down the stairs? How about we go into the bathroom? The tub. The tub might be very high. Can they step into that tub, step out of that tub to take a shower? That may be a safety issue. Throw rugs. Although they may look very pretty, be very decorative, that is a fall risk. Someone can easily trip over that throw rug. And slippery floors. Some floors that were ceramic floors, ceramic tile that were beautiful in the kitchen. Now, when it gets met with water, it is very slippery, and that's just an accident waiting to happen. Now, driving. Here's one of the biggest concerns that we have, and when we need to think about, is it time to make a change? Driving is a major concern for seniors. I know there might be times that you've been on the road and someone is in front of you and they're going so slow. And you say to yourself, oh my goodness, where is this person going? Or do they have someplace to go? I wish they would speed up. And then when you get alongside of them, you see it's a little old lady or a little old man. You go, oh my goodness. And you feel bad for being upset at an elderly person. But one of the things about them being on the road as we age, our reflexes are not as sharp as they used to be. Our vision begins to deteriorate, even when we're wearing glasses. I don't know about you, but I know for myself, I think these new cars, the headlights, they are so bright and they're very glaring. So just imagine that with a person who's 75, 80 years old who's driving. Yes, we do have a lot of people who are 85 years old, 90 years old who are still driving. So one of the things to look at is the person getting lost while driving? When you see the car, are you finding dents and scratches on their vehicle that they can't explain? Are you in the car with them and they're having unexplained road rage? They're becoming very irritated? That's a sign. Now, let's talk about the home. We're going to look around the home and take note of the tidiness and the cleanliness. And are we properly disposing of dishes? Are the dishes piling up in the sink? How about laundry? Are clean clothes, can they be distinguished from the dirty clothes? Are they all in the same pile? How about the trash and leftover food? Open up the refrigerator. Is the food spoiling in there? That's a sign that something isn't right. Over time, daily chores can become a huge burden, or even things that aging adults just totally forget to do. Is everything where it needs to be? Open the refrigerator. Do you see something strange in the refrigerator, like maybe mom's pocketbook? Or maybe the cell phone is in the refrigerator? Here's one. Are the plants well kept? Are we remembering to water the plants? Those are signs that it may be time to consider changing our living environment. Now we're going to look at some things that may take some time before we discover. And I've had some incidents with some clients that have been very critical with unpaid bills. So when you visit your loved one, check the mailbox and see if the mail has made its way from the mailbox into the home. Are the bills being paid, sorted out, and filed? Are you finding any collection notices? So tasks such as paying bills require a considerable amount of recollection and can be very daunting as we begin to age. I had a client once, very ironic. What he did for a living was he sold long-term care insurance. His family didn't realize that he had dementia, and his bills were going unpaid to the point that he did not pay the premium for his long-term care insurance. And unfortunately, he lost it just at the time that he needed it most. So everyone needs some type of social outlet. And for seniors, it's even more critical if they've recently lost a spouse or a child. One of the things I think that the pandemic showed us is how important it is to have human interaction. So take a look. Is mom or dad or maybe your spouse neglecting their friends? People that they used to want to be around, go to the book club, and now they no longer want to go? Or are they craving more and more attention from you than they normally do? Are they eager to leave the house and stay in touch with friends and go to social functions? Take a step back and look and see if they are truly happy. Now, let's see how they're reacting. Let's look at their demeanor. We want to keep an eye out to see if that person has any changes in their emotional state. Notice how they react to unexpected changes throughout the day. Is it possible that your once docile loved one could harm someone or themselves? Do they often get disappointed, irritated, or sad over any changes in their routine? These are things that we have to take time to notice, and they cannot be observed by a simple phone call. And oftentimes, as adult children, we call our parents and we have a phone conversation with them, and we feel as though, oh, I spoke to them. Everything is okay. They can hide and disguise things that are not right because you're not seeing what's actually going on. You're not seeing their face. You're not looking into their eyes. Stop by, visit your parents. Weight loss. Now, for a lot of us women, we're always constantly trying to lose weight. No matter how much we weigh, we're always looking at it and saying we need to lose some more weight. But as we age, a reduction in weight can mean a number of things. So first, we want to check and make sure that they're eating enough and getting proper nutrition. Are they cooking for themselves? Or are they getting fast food every day? So that could be weight loss. That could be weight gain from eating a lot of processed food. Look and see, is there a possible vitamin deficiency? What's really going on? The frailness is a huge concern because that leads to a greater possibility of bone fractures. So we want to look out and see how the weight is, how it's fluctuating up and down. We want to try and keep that weight as stable as possible. Their hygiene. Oftentimes, our seniors, they don't shower with the same frequency that someone in their 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s might shower. Now, I will say that as we age, showering every day dries out your skin. So we're not looking for mom or dad to take a shower every day, but they should have frequency with which they are showering. But showering can become very intimidating depending upon the type of shower that they have in their home. Is it a tub that they have to maneuver around and step over? Or is it one they can just walk in? What does the floor look like in that shower, in that tub? Is it slippery? Some of them may have a fear of falling, and so therefore they're not going to shower. And they're going to take what we might call a bird bath. So have they missed a few showers? Are they lacking in their grooming? Is dad shaving? And you notice that he's normally clean shaven and now he has a 5 o'clock shadow that almost looks like a full beard? What's going on? That's a big change in his behavior. When you walk past your parent or you're standing next to them, do you smell an odor? That's a clear sign that something is not right with their hygiene. Shaving is huge for men, and sometimes they can begin to cut themselves more frequently, and so they stop shaving. So when you notice that, something might be wrong with their dexterity with holding a razor blade. So hygiene is something that you also want to look at and see what's going on. And if it's not right, maybe it's time to make a change. One of the big ones, loss of memory. We have to pay attention to the little things. Did they forget how to cook one of their favorite meals that they've cooked for years, and now they don't know how to cook it? Did your loved one have a great memory and now they can't remember things? That's a sign. Asking questions repeatedly and forgetting important dates like in appointments, birthdays, that can be a red flag that dementia may be an issue. One of the things that we often miss is not necessarily one that relates to the person that we're caring for, but the caregiver themselves. So, as a caregiver, are you exhausted? Are you finding that you're now having health challenges? Caring for an aging parent is very challenging when you have an already hectic life. So, part of the decision to consider assisted living may not be that your loved one has become more frail, but it may be that you, as the caregiver, now you need care, you need time, and you can no longer perform the task that you were performing for your loved one. And so maybe now it's time to consider assisted living. Now, I've spoken to you about things that you might want to look at when we're talking about assisted living. But one of the questions you may have is say, hey, Connie, these things that you said, okay, that's great, but I've heard that assisted living can be very expensive. How do I pay for this? So, assisted living can be paid in several ways. It can be you can use your monthly income of your loved ones, such as Social Security or pensions. Most of the people now in their 70s and 80s, they have pensions. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when those who are now in their 30s, maybe even some in their 40s, whose jobs are not offering pension, and as they age and they need care, they're just going to have Social Security and whatever they might have put away in our next option in their IRA, their individual retirement account. So you can utilize your IRA for helping to pay for the care and your personal savings. There's also insurance that can help pay for assisted living. So one of the ones that a lot of people are not aware of is called life settlement. Life settlement is where you may have an insurance policy and it has a death benefit. You can take that policy and sell it to a company, and they will give you a percentage of the death benefit now. And you can use that money to pay for your care. And then when you pass away, they become your beneficiary. There's also long-term care insurance that you can purchase. The best time to purchase long-term care insurance is somewhere around 54, 55, when you're usually like in your best health. The long-term care insurance can be utilized to offset some of the costs associated with living in an assisted living community. Then you may have some assets, such as a home. Since you need to move into an assisted living, you no longer need to live in the home, and therefore you may sell the house and use some of the proceeds from that house to pay for your care to be in an assisted living community. There are some programs, services, benefits that the state and the government have that can help with paying for assisted living. One of which are for those who have served in the military, our veterans. There's a benefit called the Veteran Aid and Attendance Pension. It is utilized by veterans who served during wartime, and it's also a benefit that their surviving spouse can utilize if they need care. And then the last option we have for paying for assisted living is Medicaid. With Medicaid, you do have to qualify financially and medically for Medicaid to pay for your assisted living. Now, I do want to take some time and point out a couple of things relative to different care options. So last month, we had Megan speak about home care. And right now, I'm speaking about assisted living. But I want to talk to you about who pays for these types of care. A lot of people get confused and they think that Medicare is going to pay for a lot of care that you need, whereas it really does not. So an adult day healthcare is a type of care that you might utilize for your loved one as opposed to an assisted living or in conjunction with assisted living or in conjunction with home care. That's paid through private pay, and it can also be long-term care insurance, and Medicaid will also pay for an adult health care. For home care, similarly, you can have private pay, long-term care insurance. I mentioned the veteran benefits. That can be utilized to pay for home care, Medicaid, and Medicare will pay for some home care. Medicare now has a benefit where if your loved one has dementia, that that you can get approved for 72 hours of care. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but sometimes 72 hours of care can be very helpful to have someone come and sit with your loved one. You may have some errands to run. You don't want a full-time aide because you're doing it yourself, and the Medicare will pay for that benefit. Then for assisted living, we've talked about how we can pay for assisted living already, and a nursing home. If your loved one needs to go to a nursing home, which is when a higher level of care is required other than home care and other than assisted living, then you could look at private pay, long-term care insurance, veteran benefits, Medicaid, and there is a portion of Medicare that will pay for part of your for your nursing home stay. And then if you have to go to rehab for physical therapy, occupational therapy, or physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational or physical therapy, that can be private pay. It can also be paid through Medicare. So now I just want to take a moment and make you aware of some resources that are available to you within the state that a lot of people aren't aware even exist. So we do have a division of senior services, and within every county, there is an office on aging. So within the I would say every state, not just the state of New Jersey, there is an Office on Aging. You can contact them and they can tell you of programs that they have for seniors. They will tell you how to qualify. They will send you information so that you can apply for the programs. The state of New Jersey has Medicaid, and within the state of New Jersey, Medicaid will pay for assisted living as well as home care and as well as nursing home. That is not true in every state, but in New Jersey, it is the case. New Jersey also has what we call respite care programs. They're available in every county within New Jersey. The respite care program is for the caregiver. It is not necessarily for the person needing the care. It is to allow the caregiver to have a respite, to have time to recharge their battery. So let's say, for example, you want to go on vacation. And if you go on vacation, there's no one to care for your loved one. You can apply for the respite care program, and they will pay for your loved one to have the care they need while you go on vacation. Now, they're not going to pay for your vacation, but they will pay for the care if you qualify while your loved one is gone. Why would they do this? Because it is less expensive for them to pay for the care while you're gone than to pay for your loved one to be in a nursing home or a facility for the entire time. So there's also Farm Assistant for the Aged and Disabled, PAD, and this helps those who need assistance with their medication, and the phone number is there. We also have Alzheimer's of New Jersey, and Alzheimer's of New Jersey, you can see the website there, but there's also the Alzheimer's Association in every state. They too have respite programs, wellness programs, they provide support groups, and they have care for caregivers, support groups. So the numbers you see here are for the state of New Jersey. But for other states, you can go on to the website, or you can go online and you can Google. Feel free if you want to take pictures of this slide, and you can get that information for the state where you may live. Now, there is a program that we have within the state of New Jersey, and it is called JAC, Jersey Assistance for Community Caregivers. And this is a program for someone who is taking care of their loved one at home, but they need some assistance. So you can get home care, you can have assistance with their chores, you can get assistance with transportation, with home modifications, with care management. You can get an emergency response system. And here it gives you some of the qualifications that you would need to apply for, to be eligible for JAC. So you have to be 60 years or older, need some type of care. It says nursing facility, but it's really any activities of daily living that you need some help with, but you wish to remain at home. Now you might say, Connie, why are you showing me this when you did a presentation on assisted living? So while I want to give you information about assisted living, I also want to make you aware, because assisted living a lot of times is something that is the last resort. A lot of family members care for their loved ones at home first. Then they go to home care, which Megan spoke about last time, and then they go to assisted living. So while you're on your care journey, these are resources that can help you until the time comes that you feel you are ready or your loved one needs to go to assisted living. So for JAC, this is for a person who is not financially eligible for Medicaid. A lot of people think, I have too much money for Medicaid, I can't get any help. That is not true. The JAC program is for people who have too much money to be on Medicaid, but they're not enough money to really be rich and take care of everything that they need. So your resources annually need to be between $40,000 for an individual and $60,000 for a couple. And you do need to be a U.S. citizen or a qualified permanent resident. Okay? Have no other means of support, and you live within the community, meaning you're living in your home. You cannot be a part of JAC if you're in a nursing home or an assisted living. So I just wanted to share this information here about JAC. There is also a program that I want to make you aware of. It's called the Personal Assistance Service Program. And this program is for residents of the state of New Jersey, and they have some type of permanent physical disability and they require some assistance with their daily living. They're between the ages of 18 and 70. They live in the community and they are able to supervise their care and services. This is someone who may be employed or is preparing for employment through a vocational training program. They could be in school or they could be volunteering in the community. The key here is that they have a disability and they need some help. This program allows you to hire someone of your choosing, and you will get funding to pay the person who is helping you. You have a monthly budget. So they can help you with some of your chores. They can help you. You can purchase equipment with the money that that you would receive. The purpose of the program is try to promote independence. So I'm sharing this because these are some programs that a lot of people are not familiar with. This slide here, if you want to take a picture of it, gives you the contact information for various counties throughout the state of New Jersey. And what happens is if the monies are not spent, then the next year the program is not funded. And people don't know about it, and they could utilize these services, and then the money would be well spent. Now, the last program that I want to tell you about is called Project Lifesaver. And this program is for people who are home, they have some form of dementia, and they wander. So what this program does is it equips them with, you can see down here at the bottom, it's like a little bracelet. And this bracelet is used to track them if they wander off. So it can be used for elderly people who have an Alzheimer's diagnosis, who have dementia, those who may have a traumatic brain injury. It's also useful for children with developmental disorders such as Down syndrome or autism spectrum disorder or TBI or some other neurological disorder. The difference with this device as opposed to a regular tracking device is it utilizes radio frequency so that the police can track them and find them no matter where they are. So if you've ever been driving and your GPS goes out because you've hit a blind spot or a dead spot, that's happened to me quite a few times. That will not happen with this device because it utilizes radio frequency, and it allows them to find the person who has wandered off. Oftentimes, people with dementia or people who may have Down syndrome or autism, if they wander off and it starts raining, they hide under a bridge, or they may just hide under a bridge, and GPS will not be able to detect them under a bridge. So this radio frequency is very helpful. This is a free program, and the programs that I've spoken to you about, these resources, are all free. I just wanted to take some time to make you aware of them. So again, my name is Connie Pizarro with Oasis Senior Advisors. You have here my contact information, and you can see on the right-hand side pictures of my team. So thank you very much. And I guess we can see if we have any questions in the chat.
Wow. This was amazing, Connie. I feel like every time you speak, I learned something new. I've taken tons of notes, and I appreciate that you gave us information even above and beyond the scope of what we were here to talk about. So very, very informative. I did not see any questions in the chat, but feel free to unmute or ask. One of the questions that I did have was usually, right, when our loved ones are aging, um, they're sort of in denial about some of their daily living activities, right? So I'm wondering, if you have any tips around, above and beyond in-home care, if it's time for them to get assisted living, like how that conversation can start. Because, I mean, I can tell you with my own mom, I think I mentioned this story before, I wanted to help her out the car because it was snowing. And she's like, I can do it myself. Because to her, she's like, I'm not getting old. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying, Ma. I feel like they get defensive the older they get. So I'm curious if you had some tips there.
Sure. So one of the things that I tell um, people as the adult children is if you frame it around yourself, make it so that you're the one that has the issue, not them.
Mhm.
So if you're helping your mother out of the car, you might want to say, um, Mom, I'm concerned because I'm not sure that I parked close enough to the curb. Do you need assistance? So you ask her. Don't make the assumption that she does, even though in your mind you feel she needs assistance.
Right,
So you ask her. You'll be surprised. She may say yes, or she may say something like, well, can you pull a little closer?
right,
Okay. Then this is giving her the control, and she doesn't feel as though you're taking over and telling her what to do.
right.
Um, when you want to talk to them about moving to assisted living, one of the things that you could do is talk to them about seeing the place. Have they ever been to an assisted living? Do they know what assisted living is? A lot of people in their 70s and 80s think of nursing homes. And so they have this vision in their head of sitting in a wheelchair, slumped over with drool coming out of their mouth. That's what they think it is. That is so far from the truth. A lot of assisted livings now, they are like cruise ships on land. They're like resorts. They are like party all the time. And assisted livings communities, really, they're like on a spectrum. And with the far left side of the spectrum being a social model, far right being a medical model, and then you have everything in between. So when you talk to them about the assisted living, you can say, how do you feel about cleaning your house? Or you can say, like, I used to tell my mom, I hate cleaning my house. I don't want to clean my house. I don't want to do laundry. And I put it at things that I don't want to do. And I wish I had someone to do that for me. And did you know that in assisted living, they will do your laundry
Mm.
and they will clean the apartment for you? Did you know that? And they have chefs in there and it's restaurant style food. Most of them have no clue. When my mother moved to an assisted living, she looked at me and she said, this place is better than my apartment. And I said to her, that's what I've been trying to tell you all this time.
Yeah,
But she had in her mind that it was some God-forsaken, awful place. So sometimes it's letting them visit one, talking to them about your concerns, how you're feeling, um, that you may be afraid for their safety, that you want what's best for them. Try as much as possible not to tell them that you think they need help.
right.
Don't tell them that, Ma, you're not as young as you used to be. Mom, you keep falling down the stairs. You know, the other thing too is you can give options and only give options that you really can live up to.
Right.
Like if your mother if you cannot take your parent into your home, don't make that an option. But if you can, say, I'm concerned about you living alone now. Would you like to come and live with me and your grandchildren? Grandchildren are a big plug. Whenever you throw in the grandchildren, the whole dynamics change.
Yeah.
Whole dynamics change.
Yeah.
Other thing too is having grandchildren talk to the grandmother about moving.
Hmm.
Grandparents are very hard pressed to tell their grandchildren no or to get angry with their grandchildren.
Yeah.
So they'll be more inclined to say, okay, I'll go to lunch with you I'll go to lunch with you at this place. I'll go take a look at it. The adult child, you're going to get no.
Yeah.
But grandchild, they'll be inclined to do it.
Hmm.
I see in the chat someone put, what's the average cost of assisted living? It depends on what your needs are. So there are three components that go into the cost of assisted living. The first one is the apartment. So in assisted living, you have an apartment, and it can range from a shared apartment that you're sharing with someone else of the same sex, all the way up to a two-bedroom, two-bath apartment. So the apartment is the first component. The second component is your care. The more care you need, the more it's going to cost. So care can range from what we call standby, which is someone who is there and literally stands by so that you don't fall. They're there as you go into the shower as a safety precaution. And it could go from that level all the way up to a person fully bathing you, fully helping you go to the bathroom and cleaning you after you go to the bathroom, feeding you. Okay, so that range there. And then the last component is what we call medication management. And that's when the assisted living is helping you with your medication. Some places charge based on how many pills a day you take, and some charge based upon how many passes, meaning, do you take medication once, twice, three times, or four times a day? If you are diabetic and you're insulin dependent, there's a surcharge for that. If you use a nebulizer, it's a surcharge for that. If you have a catheter, that too is also an upcharge. And there are only some communities that will admit people with a catheter. So you say, okay, Connie, you've told me all of that, but what is it going to cost? So I'm going to take an average of a person who may need help bathing and dressing, and they have a studio apartment, and they're looking in Central Jersey. On average, you can expect to spend between $6,500 to $7,500 a month. So needing more care, it's going to go up. A larger apartment, it will go up. More medication, it's going to go up. But that, I would say, would be an average. Now, if you go down to South Jersey, you can get something less expensive. If you go North Jersey, you're going to be paying more money. So it's just like housing, which I'm sure Tess can attest to. In North Jersey, houses cost a little more. You go down to South Jersey, houses may cost a little less, unless you're going, oceanside, you're going to go right on the beach. You're going to spend a little less money.
And you can help people find places anywhere in Jersey, correct?
Yes, I can help you to find places not only within the state of New Jersey, but in other states because Oasis is a franchise and we're throughout the United States. And so, working with us, we would work with our partner in that state to help you to find the appropriate assisted living. So, question is, are they private or government run? Does the cost increase every year like rent? So, private or government run, most assisted livings are privately owned. A corporation, sometimes it's a family, sometimes it can be an LLC. They're usually not owned and run by the government. Are they increased every year like rent? Sometimes and sometimes not. Sometimes the assisted living could go up one particular year and not have an increase at all. And then the next year they have an increase. We saw this like during the pandemic, they didn't have an increase. And after the pandemic was over, then they did have an increase. So are rates negotiable? Some things are, and it depends on what's going on at that time. So, one of the great things about working with someone such as myself, working with an advisor, is that we know what's going on in the community and we know what's going on that particular month. Unfortunately, sometimes assisted living apartments is like buying a car. Toward the end of the month, they want to get everything off the lot. And so they'll give you some great deals. That too can also happen in an assisted living. If you're looking to move in and it's near the end of the month, and they're trying to hit some numbers, we can get some good deals. If you're looking now, February, and you want to move in June, no, that's too far out. You're really not going to get a great deal. But if you're looking in the same month that you want to move, chances are we can get a good deal. If there are a lot of vacancies in the assisted living that you're looking at, you might be able to get a good deal because their census is low. If there's only one apartment left, it's going to be very difficult to get a deal. So it depends on what's going on at that time.
So, 6,500 average, for studio, right, with minimal care is probably not accessible for a lot of people. So then that makes me feel like I'm looking at the options of payment sources. What do you find? I mean, if someone had invested in real estate and they can sell, their home, that could be one option. And I think there's also some look back periods, right? Things like that to qualify for Medicare, I believe. Like, what do you find is the average person who may not have that amount saved up somewhere? Like, how do they typically pay for it?
So most people pay for assisted living by selling their home.
Okay.
That's what most people do. Uh, there are some people who sometimes they have a reverse mortgage
Right.
and they have to pay off that reverse mortgage first. And then there are um, sometimes they do have some equity left after they've paid that off. But I would say most people pay with the sale of their home. More people than you realize have long-term care insurance. There are people who were teachers. Teachers have a great monthly income between the pension and their Social Security. Most people who taught have about $5,000 a month as monthly income. So then you're looking at $1,500 a month that you have to come up with from your savings. Okay. So it is doable. It sounds like a huge number, but it does work out. The other thing too is that you're not necessarily looking to pay this money for the rest of your life. You're looking to make sure you can pay for at least 2 years.
Hmm.
So if you have enough money to pay for 2 years, once your funds are depleted, you can apply for Medicaid.
Mm.
Medicaid will pay for you to be in an assisted living. You will, if you're in a beautiful two-bedroom apartment, Medicaid is not going to pay for you to be in a beautiful two-bedroom apartment. You will need to move and downsize to a smaller apartment that you would share with someone else of the same sex. But you do have Medicaid in the state of New Jersey that will pay once you have depleted your funds and you qualify financially and medically. So when you mentioned the 5-year look back, that's where that comes into play when you apply for Medicaid. Medicaid will look at your financials from now going back 5 years to see how you spent your funds. So while the IRS allows you to gift money, Medicaid does not. And so if you gave away money, you will have a penalty. So it's advisable not to give away your money in large sums. Now you can give a grandchild $500 or someone, nice birthday gift. But when you're looking at 10 and $20,000, No, you don't want to do that. Um, Thinking that, oh, let's move mom's money over here. No, the government's going to know that you did that shift because you have to turn over all your financials. So if you do it and it's 6 years ago, then they're not going to know because you're out of the 5 year look back window. So a lot has to do with planning and timing.
Yeah, we have one.
So, questions here. If your loved one eventually needs nursing home level care, do most assisted living facilities have nursing home care options? Okay, so there are like 5 conditions that mandate nursing home. Some people think that when a person cannot walk, it means they need to go to a nursing home. That's not true. Anyone can push you in a wheelchair. So when you're looking at nursing home level care, it's things that a nurse, you must have a licensed nurse to do. So those things are if you have a trach, you cannot be in a nursing home. That requires treatment from a skilled nurse. If you have a feeding tube, that requires a skilled nurse. You have to be in a nursing home. If you cannot turn your body over yourself, that requires a skilled nurse. Now, you may say, well, Connie, can't anyone just turn you over? And the answer to that is no, because you want to prevent wounds and bed sores. And so the nurse knows the angle at which your body can lay and the timing in which you can stay in that position before you need to be turned again so that we can prevent pressure wounds and bed sores. The other thing that that would mandate you going to a nursing home is if you do not have dementia and you cannot feed yourself. So an assisted living won't feed you unless you have dementia. If you have dementia and you're in the memory care, they will feed you. So when you look at that, a feeding tube, can't turn yourself over, a trach, also if you need to be on a ventilator, those are things that an assisted living cannot handle. So if any of those conditions come about, then you have to leave the assisted living because by state regulations, they cannot treat you. And so, how does this come about? One of the side effects or one of the things that happens when a person has dementia or some form of dementia or Alzheimer's is you could lose the ability to swallow. When you lose the ability to swallow, you have to make a determination as to whether or not you do go for the quality of life or if you're going to go for a feeding tube. If you opt for a feeding tube, you must leave the assisted living and go to a nursing home. If you're on hospice, you can be in an assisted living. Assisted living can have a person live there and hospice services come in to the assisted living and provide the services. Okay, I am not seeing any.
There's one more. I'm gonna close it up, but there's one more. What if one spouse is 82, is the caregiver, and the wife needs a lot of care, dialysis, light dementia, arthritis? Can they qualify for assisted living and live together?
So the answer to that is yes. So a well spouse can live in an assisted living with a spouse that needs care. So the cost is very different because the well spouse does not need care. So you're not paying for care for 2 people. You're only paying for care for one person, and the other person, you're paying for their care. The assisted living, some of the assisted livings can arrange for transportation to dialysis, or sometimes the family has to arrange for the transportation to dialysis. The well spouse would pay what's called a second person fee, which is drastically reduced. So it can be somewhere around $1,500 to $2,500 a month. And they would have the ability to live in that apartment with their spouse. They would have the three meals a day provided to them. They would have use of all of the activities in the community available to them. They just would not receive care because they don't need the care. If the time comes that they need care, then they would receive care and they would then begin to pay for the care.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Connie. A lot of information, a lot of information. I hope that everyone got, something new that they can use, and hopefully this information resonated. I did send the link in the chat for our upcoming series, which will focus on downsizing. So as Connie mentioned, the way that most people pay for this is either estate planning, right? If you've done, or if your loved ones have done estate planning properly and the 5-year look back period is protected, that's one way. And we are connected with a few estate planning attorneys. So if you need connections to that, feel free to reach out to us. I did share all of our information in the chat. It'll also be sent out with the follow-up along with the recording. Please sign up for the next one. So our goal is to give you this information in chunks, but in a way that makes sense, right? So we did it step by step, as we mentioned. And next time we'll talk about if, you reach the decision that, okay, we need to sell mom and dad's house in order to care for them, or simply because honestly, it's too big for them. It's too much to manage. And some of the, symptoms, I guess, that Connie mentioned, maybe the stairs don't work anymore, or the bath, or it's too much taxes, or whatever it may be, then we can have that conversation. So please sign up and share with others who will find that information helpful. The recording, along with our contact information, will be shared with you as well. I hope you found this helpful. If there are no other questions, we invite you to connect with us on our socials as well. And if there's anything, any information that we can provide, we'll be happy to do so. So I hope this was worth your time. Give us a reaction or something. I see some of the comments coming in. So Connie, you're getting a lot of thank yous. Very informative. Great information. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you all. We appreciate the claps, the digital claps. Awesome. Have a great night, y'all.